the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Same conversation with the personnel department person who just left this past week, and that was under strange circumstances, it seems like, from the outside. That's never good. You obviously are losing Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells and company, like a lot of question marks I still have about where South Carolina's headed. And we talked about it in the show last week, where everybody is all eyes on Billy Napier and that schedule. But I look at South Carolina and I see a worse season for South Carolina than I do Florida. And as of right now, if you ask me to pick who wins more games in 2024, I pick Florida over South Carolina. And I just don't know what, we talked about it when we went through South Carolina's history. When coaches win 4 or 5 games in South Carolina, that's usually it. Like Will Muschamp, Steve Spurrier, you go back, when you hit that 3-win, 4-win, 5-win area, it can get very, very hot. So I just think Beamer has to be in that conversation, because I could see all of Beamer, Napier, and Pittman gone after this year at their respective schools. So I grouped them together. I was surprised. Why don't you have Beamer with those two?
I think the difference, and I'll get to Beamer when we get to that tier, but I think the difference is, like, I think Napier and Pittman are much hotter seats. Like, there's definitely I would say probably, would you say bowl game or fired for both of these guys?
No.
Okay, so what's the threshold? Like, where do they have to get to? Like, is there a win total that Pittman or Napier have to get to keep their job?
I think Pittman, I don't know, because like one of the weird things about Pittman is that Petrino's now in the building, and Petrino's obviously coached at Arkansas. He has been a successful head coach. Like, it's one of those things where if he does really well, does that make Arkansas administration more comfortable moving on from Pittman, because Petrino can just be the head coach and keep this thing humming and jump back into the saddle as the head guy? Or is it more of like, hey, no, this is good, it worked out, but we're still going to keep the CEO type coach and Sam Pittman, the likable guy, and we'll keep this thing humming
the fundraiser, the face of the program.
Yeah, like, I don't know how that goes. So I'm not really sure for Sam Pittman if it helps him or not for Bobby Petrino to be a home run OC hire, because I don't know if that helps him or not. I know that's a weird way of phrasing it, but I don't know.
What if they go 4-8, 5-7, but the offense is
I think
fun?
4-8 or below, Pittman's out.
If they go 5-7 and the offense is fun and
then I think they still move off from Pittman and they just promote Petrino, would be my guess. If the offense is fun and good and Pittman doesn't get a bowl game,
that's on Pittman to get a guy like Petrino.
But he also needed him to save his job. I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a really weird situation with Petrino back at Arkansas.
I think Pittman is, because he feels like so kind of beloved at Arkansas, it feels like he doesn't have a bowl game or bust. That's like the small distinction I put at number 2. I feel like Billy Napier, like 3 straight seasons of losing records. Like, I have obviously 6-7 could make a bowl game and still be a losing record. But I think if they miss a bowl game, I just can't see the University of Florida keeping a head coach after 3 losing seasons. Like, fair or unfair, because I mean, I think the SEC, the competition, we know about Florida's schedule, like we know about the roster that he inherited. So like, maybe I don't think he maybe should be fired. I'll find it hard to believe that the University of Florida will have the patience not to fire him if it's a 3rd straight losing season.
I don't know, because like part of me is like, everybody knows about the Florida schedule. Everybody, like the administration at Florida knows what Napier is up against schedule wise. I wonder how much that shapes their perspective on their own expectations going into this year, where they look at this schedule and they're like, I mean, either he's your guy or he's not your guy, if you're Scott Strickland. But I look at it and I'm like, what is the most realistic outcome here for Billy Napier? And if they look before the year, the administration looks at it and they're like, look, I think they should be able to get to 5 or 6 wins. And then we just hope and pray we get a better schedule next year. And DJ Lagway will be a sophomore. He's a super talented 5-star. Maybe we get him in the build and he kind of changes some stuff. Let's just get through this terrible stretch of games here this fall. and get into year 4 with Napier. I could see them talking themselves into that because Lagway is such a big time prospect that I don't know. Florida's still recruiting well. Like part of the, like, it's not like Florida's fallen off on the recruiting aspect of things when it comes to what Florida's doing on the talent front. Like they're in the blue chip ratio. So it's not like they're falling off a cliff and things are going awry in different ways. But like, I don't know. I think if you were asking me who's the least safe of anyone in this conference right now, I would probably go 1, Sam Pittman, 2, Beamer, 3, Napier, because I think Napier has the narrative on his side where I genuinely think everyone around the country will be like, what did you want him to do with the schedule? Like if he goes 4-8 or 5-7, they're like, what did you want to happen? Because do you get what I'm saying? Where if he can stand to only overachieve almost, because if Napier wins 7 games or something, he's looked at as like wow, he's got Florida moving.
It's like, but there's a difference between this conversation in the off season and this conversation when the season's actually happening. And you actually go through those like 5 straight losses. It's about feelings. And it's like, this is my prediction of how Florida's season's going to go. You are going to hear so many people, whether it's commentators, Florida fans, say the phrase, I know there's no moral victories, but, and then whatever they have to say, because there could be multiple, it's going to be about feelings. Like maybe Georgia-Florida's at 24-21 going into the 4th quarter, and then Georgia wins by 17 or something, or, kind of pulling away, or maybe LSU wins at a last second field goal or something like that. Like it's going to be like, if you kind of feel like you had enough moments to cheer for, like the season was fun, we weren't just getting embarrassed every week, there is a chance, because you're right, the recruiting is going in the right level, or at the right, in the right direction. But I don't know.
You also don't want to lose DJ Lagway, right? Like you run the risk of losing DJ if you make the change.
For sure. I'm just curious if they'll actually do it. If like seeing 3 straight losing seasons, it's tough. It's tough to keep your job.
But you get the other side of it where it's like, well, they're predicted. Like if they're not, Florida might not be favored in like 9 games this year. And then you're like, well, he did exactly what he was supposed to do with this team.
Yeah, but he's the one that built the roster that's not favored in 9 games, So it's at some point, it's year 3. So I
don't know. I'm also just optimistic. I think there's a strong chance Florida comes into Knoxville undefeated in mid-October.
It definitely could happen. But let's take it to tier 2. The tier 2 is we need a national title. And on this tier, we got number 3 on my rankings, Brian Kelly, and number 4, Steve Sarkisian. So Sarkisian obviously has a lot of goodwill built up. Beat Alabama, had that great season last year, made the college football playoff. But Texas fans, they got short memories. They won a national title. It's been about 2 decades since they had a national title.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.